Hello again. I hope this works. If we cut out again, I might try a different day. It's obviously the signal. I've changed my connection, so hopefully we'll be okay. Just wait for a few people to come. I've seen we can just pick it back up from where we were. Nice to see you again. So, I'm just waiting just for a few more people because I know there was a lot in the house. And, just give them a chance to come back in. Obviously, this is part 2. Okay, so just wait a few more minutes for more to come in. Okay, so where we were up to, apologies for the connection. We'll see how we go, and if we chop off again, I'll leave it and try another day when the signal is better. Okay. So you're going back in time to see when you experienced the same emotion. And the whole reason you're looking a few years ago maybe, or maybe last week, then go back into the decades of your life, and then find one when you were a teenager where you're having exactly the same reaction, the same emotion. And the whole reason you're doing this is to convince yourself that you have a pattern of behavior that is ingrained within you. In other words, it has nothing to do with the people in your reality. It's a reaction that you have. And it's that we're going to smash. So that's why you have to look at various times in your life when you had exactly the same emotion. And then once you've looked at something, it will have happened again in your teenage years. Then go back to your childhood, to the earliest memory you have of experiencing that emotion, and take your time, which is why you must do this work on a day when you're being kind to yourself, when you can give love to yourself. If you're in a state of beating yourself up, feeling worthless, hating yourself, then that is what you're going to give to the work that you're doing to heal yourself. You're giving a lack of love to yourself. So go back to your childhood and try and find the earliest memory you have of experiencing exactly the same emotion. And just be there. Let that childhood, because the childhood one is the key, let that childhood memory play out in your mind, all the while being love to yourself. So you can almost be the mother of you, the mother to your child. So be the observer as a mother to the child that had that first emotional experience, and how that child reacted in that circumstance. And just be with it with kindness, love, as a mother would her own child. And when you've sat with that just for a little while, you can then ask yourself, what did you really, really want to feel as that child in that moment? Whatever the emotion was, what did you really, really want from the person that was in your life at the time that you reacted to? What was it you really wanted? Because every single behavioral pattern, every upsetting emotional reaction that we as humans have has one common denominator: the lack of love. In that moment as a child, all you wanted was to be loved for who you are. You wanted love. Maybe as an example, maybe in adult life you develop a temper. That back and look at it from when you were that child. Take it all the way back when you shouted as a child. What were you trying to do? You were trying to get somebody's attention. You were wanting somebody to see you. You were wanting to be loved. And so you develop the behaviour of, if I shout, I'll get the attention. I'll therefore be getting the love. So every single emotion we experience, we have to first of all acknowledge that it's a pattern, and the way to do it is to see it through the decades of our lives, so that we can actually separate it off from the instance that happened just now, so that we can stop proportioning the blame out there, no matter who it's with, and realize it's ours, it's our behavioural pattern, and there's nothing wrong with that. And the reason there's nothing wrong with that is because as a child, all you wanted was to be loved for who you are. And as a child, you didn't know. You didn't know as a human little child that you could give that love to yourself. You didn't know. But now you do. And so now, in any moment, you can give the love that you desire and you want to yourself. You just didn't know it as a child. So what happens is, by taking the time to go through back in your life and seeing how you reacted, doesn't matter what the trigger is, just do the same process every single time. Doesn't matter what the emotion is, just do the same process. You'll end up at your childhood where something happened that you misperceived. You misperceived it through the eyes of a child that did not know the love it was lacking from the outside it could give to itself. When you realize then that it was a misperception at a very, very, very early age, it was an experience you had with child eyes, child mentality. All you actually wanted was to be seen and to be loved. And when you realize that it was a misperception, that's when you dissolve the pattern, because you know today as the adult that you can give that love to yourself at any time. And if there's anybody watching that still feels they can't give themselves love, then do this exact process on why you can't give yourself love, and trace it back to your childhood as to why you cannot give yourself love, and the answer will be as your child. It's the biggest one, and it's when you can give yourself love, and you realize that you're worthy of love, and you always were, that you can do the most amazing work on clearing the patterns, because you can be kind to yourself and not beat yourself up. So what will happen when you reach this revelation that the only reason you feel this emotion today is because of this event that happened when you were a child that you misperceived because all you wanted was love? And that today you can give yourself that. You clear the distortion. But there's a but. You found the core root of why the behaviour pattern is in place and has been in place and was established when you were a child. You found the root. And the but is that having done that work, having found that root cause, that it goes back to your childhood, what will happen, because this is you ascending, remember, is your higher self will present another situation for you to react to. And most likely, if you're anything like me, you'll still react. Okay? We don't always get it right first time. So something's going to happen again. Know that. Know, okay, I found the root, so expect another event where you react. And most likely, you're going to react with the same pain, emotional pain, okay? But because you've done the work and you've got the memory of having done the work and you know what the root cause is, that memory comes smashing in and it makes mincemeat of the event. So yes, you have reacted from the pain again, but now you're catching yourself, okay? Now bear with me. It'll happen again. And you'll be presented with another situation and maybe another person, different day. And then how do you react? You react from your knowing, from your wisdom. And so you don't react with the same emotion. So we're unlearning the behavior, and it's not like quick fix. Doesn't work that way. We have to dissolve it, erase it with love. There's no point in thinking, well, sod it. I don't care what that person says. I'm doing this and I'm this, because that isn't looking at the core truth. The answer hasn't been found. That is love. That is just simply ego reaction, ignoring it, being on the defensive, and so it will come round again, and it will come round again. The way we dissolve everything is with love, with understanding of ourselves, within ourselves. We didn't know any better as a child. So everything, every pattern will be dissolved with love, not ego, not anger, not fight, not forgetfulness. Oh, I'll just leave it be and it'll fade away into my mind's background. We truly can erase it. It's so simple to erase, but the gift, the key to erasing any of our patterns is to do it with the highest frequency possible, which is love. And then when an event happens to you that once would have triggered that emotion, it happens, it's here, and you don't have a reaction to it. That's the difference. You don't have that reaction. So it doesn't affect you. And when that time comes, which is only a few times more, 2, 3 times more, and that's it. When that happens, you haven't reacted. There's nothing to dissolve. So that's a key point as well, is when something happens in your reality. If you have no emotional reaction to it, there's nothing for you to do. There's no pattern to dissolve because you're not reacting in an emotionally negative way. If there's an emotional negative reaction from you, that's the sign that there's work to do within. It's not about them. They are actually the gift to be seen through. They're presenting the gift. And it's actually your higher self bringing that person into your reality so that they do this, that and the other, or there's a circumstance that generates it maybe. How do you react? The only question is, how do I react? And if there's no reaction, there's nothing to dissolve. You're in neutral point. So what I'm going to do is just go through the points again. So if anybody, I'm scared to touch my screen in case I turn this thing off. So if you want to make a note of the time of this recording, and all I'm going to do is list through, because I've gone through the detail of it, I'm going to list in bullet point form the stages of how to dissolve an emotion. Okay, so just have a look at your timer so that you know how far in we are, because I'm a bit confused with there being 2 recordings now. Notice the trigger. What is the emotion? And be very accurate as to what the emotion is. Be precise. Take time, ensuring you're defining that emotion correctly. Look back through the decades. Try each decade to see when you reacted with the same emotion. And you're doing that so that you own the pattern. It's not about the outside or the person. You have to see you've got a pattern in order to dissolve it. So acknowledge the pattern and then go back to childhood. The earliest memory you have when you reacted that same way. Just that one. Be loving towards the child. Remember the story as the child, but be loving towards that child and the circumstance. Relive it so that you can see all that was lacking was love. And just acknowledge in that moment the child did not know any better. The child had not learnt to love itself at that point, that the love it was missing from its life and its circumstance it could give to itself. And that's exactly what you can do. And then be very aware, be ready for it to happen again. So this is you learning to unlearn the pattern. You know the root cause. You're going to unlearn it. The next time it happens, you'll probably react with the same emotion, but you've got the new memory of knowing why, and that will come in. And then it will happen again. And most likely, you'll not react with that emotion because you're so fully aware that it wasn't real, that it was a distortion that you perceived as a child. Okay, so I hope that part helps, and I'm going to move on to why we're doing this. Whereas that part has explained the human side to us and how it feels in the human life, I want to explain what is really happening at the same time. So this is all about how energy works and who you are and how you work as energy and why. why this is happening to you now to such extremes, etc. So the first part is the human side, and it's that love and care that we have for ourselves that is so key to dissolving the human patterns, of behaviour. So I've got the board. Where are we? Here we are. We've got the board, and I'm going to go through this side first. So ignore that side. This image is in the comments of that Facebook post that was announcing the live. Okay, so if you want to look at the actual image itself, it's in the comments already. But we're just going to deal with this side only first. Okay. What this image here, sorry, it's all back to front for me, so I have to, what this is representing, and it's just my representation of it, okay? It's just how I'm going to explain it to you. I'm not saying it's like this, it's just how I explain it to you. But the blue is representing the human being that's ascending in energetic frequency, bearing in mind we're all energy. And the pink is the higher self, or the higher aspect of you, higher consciousness, descending into the human. So it all happens at the same time. This baseline here with all these little markers, each marker, imagine that as the human life at that point. We're going to concentrate only on the blue for now. This is the human life at that point, and all these little markers represent emotions. So over this side, which I've put as, say, lesser energetic hertz, lesser values of energy, in other words, are the emotions of anger, rage, loneliness, sadness, guilt, jealousy, whatever. And every single emotion is energy. That's what it is. That's the truth of it. But each emotion is a different energetic frequency. So anger may be over here in its energetic value of hertz, whereas sadness may be over here, so not quite as low in terms of its energetic value. Over that side are all the good feelings. Bearing in mind we're experiencing polarity. Over that side are all the good feelings: happy, ecstasy, bliss, harmony, joy, peace, passion. And every one of those emotions has its own frequency that we experience within the body. Okay. Every human on the planet has the possibility of experiencing any of those emotions. It's not to say we do all experience all of those emotions in our lifetime, but there lies all possibility. As we awaken, though, as we clear the distortions, the behavioral emotions, the patterns that we've just talked about, when we clear one of them, what happens is we raise in our energetic human frequency. So we go up this central column. This is the 0 point. This is neutrality. This is the trunk of the tree. This is the only route through and up. This is the ascending path. Every time we clear an embedded pattern that is within the brain, we as human raise in frequency. Each time we clear an embedded emotion that we have defined as this or that, we stop experiencing it. So somebody that might experience anger, once they've cleared it, once they've really cleared it, they don't experience it anymore. Somebody who might have had a lonely life, if they just go into it and clear it with kindness and love, they'll never be lonely again. So what happens is we clear a pattern within our mind, and that raises our frequency because we can no longer experience that lower frequency. So we raise in frequency. And if we take this, as you can see, I'm doing less and less and less emotions because we clear more and more and more. And I'm going to talk about the positive emotions in a moment, okay? All the time that we're clearing these negative, we call them negative, but they're just lesser frequency. That's all it is. All the time we do that systematically, we raise our human energetic frequency. Our higher self is a higher energetic version of us. So every single time we clear something, more of our higher self, which is the pink, descends in to our consciousness state that we're experiencing by. So this is why on the Ascension path we're embodying our higher self a little bit and a little bit at a time, until there comes a point when it's known to be completely within the body, but even then it has to unfold to us. So if we take the higher self, that is a non-physical energy, bearing in mind we're all energy. This human being is energy. The higher self is energy, but it's non-solid. The higher self is capable of all of these things that are non-solid. All sorts. And as it's coming in to the human experience where we're merging as one, it's human plus higher self all the time. Every time we clear something, we embody more of our higher self. Why? Because we're going up and getting closer and closer and meeting the higher self in frequency. So we embody a little bit more of the higher self. So this is why down here, if we take that as the unawakened human, you might have a human that's unawakened but has maybe intuition, or maybe they say, oh, I've got a sixth sense, I was born with it, something like that, but they don't utilize it. They're just aware of it. So they might have some awareness or some ability, should I say, of the higher self when they're born, but they never evolve them because they haven't awakened. And once you awake, you start to evolve yourself when you search. The more you dissolve your human patterns, the more you become energy sensitive. Your higher self is energy, it's not solid. So you become more and more sensitive. So this is why I'm showing you more and more degrees of energetic sensitivity, because you're becoming more and more and more your higher self, which takes us to the positive feelings that we have as a human being, such as happiness, joy, bliss, ecstasy, love. A human being that's unawakened, for example, and I'm just giving an example, there's no judgment whatsoever. Say you've got, excuse me, I just need water. Say you've got a mother on the beach with their 2 kids. The kids run into the water and she says, oh, thank God, 5 minutes peace. This is bliss. That lady is having her experience of bliss, based on the energetic frequency that that human being is, which is here. Because this is frequency, our human frequency ascending back to source. So that lady on the beach has an understanding, a definition, an experience of bliss. The more we become higher and higher in our own energetic frequency on our path, the more we have these higher frequency experiences of bliss, to the point around here where we can just breathe in once and be in a state of bliss. We don't need something to happen to us. We are that energy sensitive. You see how much energy we've embodied then, and ability. We're that energy sensitive that we can be in a state of bliss just by our intention, just by one breath. So in between that state and the lady on the beach state, there's various states of bliss. Equally so, when we're in love and unawakened, we know what it is like to fall in love. Absolutely we do. But as we awaken and embody higher and higher energetic hertz as a human, we start to understand love at a higher and finer degree, to the point that we can just be love in an instant, because we're embodying the energetics of the higher self bit by bit. And it's the same with ecstasy. With ecstasy, you might experience ecstasy when you're making love. At a certain point of the ascension, you can experience that ecstasy just by looking at a flower. It's the same feeling, but just by looking at a flower, or with your partner who's thousands of miles away. So everything we feel on this side that is beautiful, joy, harmony, becomes far more sensitive. And we get to choose the qualities we want to keep along the way. And we discard the qualities that we know don't serve us along the way. And so we just become the purer versions that we wish to be. So bearing in mind that we're always becoming a higher energetic energy as a human being that's merging more and more with the higher self, we come to this part, which is about the incoming waves. And most already know that they come from the grand central sun, and then they go to the sun itself, Solaris, and then they come through to planet Earth. So this diagram fits into this, and it fits into what we've already spoken about, which is dissolving the human behavioural patterns that we don't want to experience anymore. So if you imagine that, I don't know how I'm going to explain this, but I'm going to have a go. This blue triangle at the bottom is the solid reality. Solid. It's this realm, the solid reality. So right at the bottom, this is energetic hertz. This is the lowest energetic hertz at the bottom, and then the triangles signifying the raise in energetic hertz. Okay, that's what it's in terms of the solid realm. So at the bottom of this triangle, you've got things like rocks that are of a specific energetic frequency. Above that, you might have plants which operate at a specific energetic frequency. Above that, animals. And then you come to the human beings, which I've shown by these blue lines, okay? They're just all signifying human beings and their state of energy. So the unawakened human beings that we all were are at a certain average, and I say average because we're always doing this every single moment. They're at a certain energetic frequency of energy. And then if we go to the opposite end of the scale and take the highest energy on the planet as a human being, they will have a higher energetic frequency. So that's what this is showing you. It's showing you how the energy comes from the sun and it diminishes in its strength. So the actual value of hertz that it was when it started out at diminishes and diminishes and diminishes so that it can come into the solid realm. At that point, that's when the highest frequency we can actually withstand hits the highest frequency human beings. And then what happens is each human being, each plant, each animal absorb as much of the energy that's incoming as their being can withstand. So in other words, somebody who is, say, and again, there's no judgment, but somebody's extremely asleep and experiencing a lot of these emotions that are of a lower frequency, they wouldn't be able to absorb into their body and their cells the higher frequencies, because most likely if that happened, they'd have a heart attack, they'd have a stroke, they'd have a nervous breakdown. So this is why we're always incrementally upgrading and upgrading and upgrading, and we're rising and rising and rising in our energetic frequency all the time. And every single time we clear a pattern, a behavioral pattern, we raise in frequency. Every time we raise in frequency, we embody more of the higher self that has the energetic sensitivity and energetic abilities. And every time there's an incoming wave, we're able to withstand and absorb more energy. So the energy one person could absorb a couple of years ago, today, because they've done the work on themselves, they can absorb even more energy. And so this is why some people don't really notice, and especially if they're asleep, they don't even notice that there's an incoming energy. And then you've got people that are really, really sensitive to the energies. Why? Because they're embodying more of their higher self. You don't have to feel the incoming waves necessarily. But what will happen is you become far, far more energetically sensitive in your particular unique ways. Okay, so everybody has their own gift to give out once they start to become the higher self, which is actually what I call stage 2 of Ascension, which is this year, 2020. And so more and more and more people will start to have, it's almost like going onto a new game. It's a different game. Because what happens is the energy of your higher self and your human meet. And your human becomes consciously aware of how to work with energy. And it knows it internally, because the higher self is then internal. So you get to learn to master energy and then master time. and then everything changes, because nothing can be the same after that. You can't undo what gets done. So I hope that helps in some way. It's ever so hard to know how much to say and what to leave out. I never want to try and bombard with too much information, but I'm trying to sort of bring it all together so that you can see why it's all happening now. It's not that your emotions are stronger. It's just the intensity of the higher self wanting those patterns to be cleared is being felt. And so what's presented now isn't like the past, because it's smacking everybody in the face where they're saying, I'm sick of this emotion, I'm fed up feeling this way, I've had enough of it. So there's a great intensity to whatever you're going through that's triggering you, the actual emotions. And it's because January is it. It literally is it, because we've already started embodying the higher self into the physical reality, which is just amazing where we're headed, and how it will change, and change quickly, very quickly. So hope it helps somehow, and just know that you're not on your own. You're completely supported, 100% supported. You're absolutely not doing this on your own. We're all here doing it together. You're not going mad. There's nothing wrong with you. You're absolutely perfect. And look what you're doing. Look where you are. So just keep going. You're just about on the precipice of seeing how special and beautiful and spectacular you are. And it's only just beginning. Stage 1 of Ascension was the hard part, and it's drawing to a close. So be kind to yourself. Celebrate yourself. Keep going. God bless everybody. I love you. Bye for now. Bye-bye.